Everyone, I'm Laurel. I'm the program manager for chipping, and I hope you're here to learn about our reimbursement shipping program. So, as Angie said, we offer two shipping programs every year. We offer our spring shipping program, which is a no-cost shipping program, and we also offer this reimbursement shipping program, which has in previous years been restricted to neighborhoods of five or more, but this year we are opening it up to individuals. What is the reimbursement shipping program? So, both of our shipping programs are intended to incentivize residents of Santa Cruz County to create defensible space around their homes. So, material that you cut from your defensible space zone can be processed through this program. We will reimburse for chipping of it by a company, or we will reimburse for your neighborhood to rent a chipper, and process the material that way. So groups of any size or individuals may apply for reimbursement. I do want to say our reimbursement rates are up to $250 per household and $80 per 500 linear feet of private road that are managed under this program. So with that in mind, it may be more cost effective for at least three people to sign up, but that will be up to everyone who signs up for the program to decide. So in order to participate in this program, you clear your defensible space, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that entails later. And then you hire a licensed chipping contractor or rent a chipper to chip the material that you cut. We do not require that you build piles for this program. That's a common misconception that people have about this program. You don't need to build piles. If you're hiring a chipping contractor, they can just chip as they go, as long as they provide an itemized receipt that includes the chipping as a separate line item from clearing. I'll get into why that is later. And if you rent a chipper, you can just load the chipper as you go. You don't have to build piles beforehand. I think people get a little bit confused between the spring program, where we will chip your piles, and the reimbursement program, where you get reimbursed for chipping. Background of this project. So it's been going on for, I don't even know how many years at this point, as long as I've been here, which is 4 years, and longer than that. So the program is intended for residents of the Wildland Urban Interface, the WUI in Santa Cruz County. If you don't know where that is, we have a map. The WUI is very large. Basically, if you're not in city limits, more or less, you are eligible for this program. Unless you happen to be in Bonnie Doon or South Skyline, they have their own shipping programs, which are administered by their own fire safe councils. We do have a map, which I'll show you on the next slide, of if your property is eligible or not, and we have a link to that. So if you're unsure, you can use that. This program is paid for with a U.S. Forest Service Community Wildfire Defense Grant and through Measure Q. So those are our funding sources for this year. And now that is a consistent funding source. The Forest Service grant takes us through 2029. So in previous years, there has had to be a wait list because we're unsure about funding. Fortunately, between the Forest Service grant and Measure Q, we have more consistent funding now. So we're not going to have a wait list for this program. This is the map that you can look at to see if your property is eligible. The link on the slide, we'll be sending the slides out. And the link on the slide will show you if your property is eligible. The link does go to our spring chipping information page, but the map is the same for both programs. So if you're interested in this program, how do you participate? So it is a two-step program. First, the group representative will apply on our website. So that's either you're signing up on behalf of your neighborhood, or you could sign up just yourself. General public sign up will open on August 1st and will continue until October 31st. And then the second step is the representative or the individual submits for a reimbursement request. It says here that your request must be submitted within 30 days of initial application. This year, that's not true. I will send you a reminder within 30 days just to follow up and see if you're still participating. But because there's no wait list and no shortage of funds this year, that actually you can still participate even if you don't submit your request within 30 days of your initial application. Um, the final day, oops, this is actually a typo. The final day to submit reimbursement requests is November 31st. I will fix this when we send the slides out. And it's correct on some other slides, but the final day to submit your requests is November 31st. So essentially, you can sign up until October 31st, and you could submit your paperwork until November 31st. The group representative will receive the reimbursement, and it will be up to them to distribute the funds from there. A little bit more information about step one. There is no longer a group minimum, as I've said. So in previous years, you had to have five, or in earlier years, eight people to apply for this program. Now any number of people can sign up, including just one. Still, though, the contact information for everyone who signs up must be shared in the initial application. There will be no wait list, so you don't have to worry about applying really quickly. Just apply by October 31st. If your group hires a chipping company rather than renting a chipper yourselves, the chipping company must be licensed. We can't reimburse for services from unlicensed contractors. You can get reimbursed for, if you rent a chipper, for the fuel for running the chipper as well. So you can be reimbursed for the fuel for the chipper. Signups do open to Firewise communities a week early. July 25th. We'll actually probably be opening at end of day the 24th, because the 25th is a Saturday. And as a note, you can apply for just road chipping reimbursement. So on an earlier slide, I showed that there was a reimbursement for households, which is $250 per participating household. So that's clearing that 100 feet of defensible space that I'll talk about later around your house. And there is also a reimbursement rate for clearing along private roads. So you can receive $80 per 500 linear feet of reimbursement for chipping material cleared from around a private road. But if you don't apply for household defensible space chipping, and if you don't perform that chipping, that clearing and chipping, you're only eligible to receive the $80 per 500 linear foot reimbursement for the road, just to let you guys know. So for the second step, submit reimbursement request paperwork by November 31st. So reimbursements can be applied to renting a chipper or hiring a licensed contractor. This does say you won't be reimbursed for cost of gas. That's actually also incorrect. I'm sorry. You can be reimbursed for the cost of gas, but you won't be reimbursed for your time. So again, time spent clearing defensible space is not eligible for reimbursement. We are actually working on uh, a larger cost share program that will probably come into being in the next year or two, in which we will hope to be able to reimburse for actual clearing. But at the moment, our environmental review paperwork does not allow for clearing, just chipping. So we can only reimburse for chipping. The paperwork that you'll need to be reimbursed includes documentation of cost and proof of payment. So a contractor invoice if you hired a contractor, with chipping as a separate line item. So if they performed clearing and chipping, have them line out the chipping cost. The description of in-kind services, which is generally the time or cost spent clearing. We like to know this because we can report this as matched to our funders, and that makes us more likely to get future funding. We also ask that you submit 1 to 2 photos, before and after images of work or action shots of chipping. Again, we send these to our funders. We may use them on our website. To let you know, receipt of reimbursement funds can take up to 120 days. Just so everyone is aware, this is because we have to submit all of your invoices to our funder, and then our funder has to process them and send them back down the line to us. So that can take a while. Reimbursement will be distributed directly to the group representative. Like I said, we don't do the splitting up between group members. That's up to the group representative. So a quick overview of defensible space clearing. What is defensible space? So your defensible space is the 100-foot zone around your home. This area is really critical for protecting your home in the event of a wildfire. The most critical zone for your defensible space is actually the 0 to 5-foot zone. Having a lot of non-combustible ground cover in that area. Having basically nothing that can catch fire in that area is really crucial if embers from a fire are coming and landing in the area around your home. That 0 to 5 foot, having that clear of combustible material is really important. The second zone, your intermediate zone, which is the 5 to 30 foot, that's where you want your managed landscaping. You want to really think about breaking up the continuity of potentially flammable vegetation and material there. So if you have a really nice garden, maybe put some rock paths through the garden. I'll show you an example on a later slide. Just something that can break up if an ember were to land in that zone and your grass caught fire, say, you want something that's going to make that fire really small, break up that continuity. And then in the extended zone, so the 30 to 100 feet, this might be for a lot of people, this is a little bit more like wild or forested. Here you want to focus on those ladder fuels. So that's cutting the lower branches on trees so fire couldn't travel from the ground into the tree canopy. Your private road also has a defensible space zone. And you want to keep this clear so that you can easily evacuate in the event of a wildfire or other emergency, and so fire professionals can easily enter your road and home in the event of an emergency. So you want 10-foot clearance on either side of the road and 15-foot clearance above the road. So that means you want to limb any trees that are overhanging your road up to 15 feet. And 15 feet is taller than you think. We do a lot of shaded fuel breaks where, it's 15-foot clearance over the road. It's often taller than you think. So just keep that in mind. And that is also from a previous year. I will delete that. You can apply for a road reimbursement no matter how many households your private road serves. Just a little more on defensible space. Here's an example. You can see that there is still vegetation, but there is a trail that breaks up the sort of grassy or herbaceous area. There's a bush, but it's kind of separated from everything else. It's kind of standalone. It's not connecting to the canopy of any trees. You do want to keep it green in your defensible space. You don't want to remove everything down to bare dirt. That's going to cause erosion. It can encourage the growth of invasive species. It's just not, and ground cover keeps the soil moist. So you might actually counterintuitively be drying things out by clearing everything down to bare soil. There are some power lines, maybe they're communication lines in this image. Don't clear your power lines yourself. Hire a specially trained arborist. That could be really dangerous. You also want to focus on those ladder fuels that I mentioned, especially as you get into the more like wildland areas of that 100-foot zone. And what are ladder fuels? They're those short trees and bushes that can really come kind of just to the bottom of the canopy of taller trees. So the trees by this house, the really tall ones, their lower branches have kind of all fallen off. That happens with a lot of conifer trees. But the bushes and small trees in this image could connect a fire to the canopy of those trees. So you want to cut those smaller shrubs, low-hanging tree limbs to just create that separation. With that being said, green trees and shrubs are not as much of a fire hazard as standing dead trees and shrubs. So you want to focus on taking out dead material before you start going after live material. If you have a lot of dead, that's going to be the thing that you want to tackle first. While you're clearing, think about the animals that we share this wonderful area with. Nesting bird season, though it does technically end September 1st, is going strong right now. So if you're doing your clearing right now, make sure that you're paying attention, just looking at the trees and shrubs that you're clearing for signs of nest or nesting activity. So if a bird is coming out of that shrub and dive bombing you, probably back away from it. Wait till after September 1st to continue cutting it, or until you see the chick fledge. Just leave that alone. Don't move or disturb the nest. It's not nice to the bird. It's also illegal. We protect our birds. And finally, if you are keeping the chips that come from your clearing, what can you do with them? So you can use them as landscaping. You don't want them in that 0 to 5 foot zone, but you can use them in that 5 to 30 foot zone to create a like less flammable ground cover or to put them in planter boxes. You can use them as mulch for fruit trees. They, like understory vegetation, can maintain soil moisture. You can spread them 2 to 6 inches, but as a warning, if you spread them 6 inches or more, maybe even like 4 or 5 inches or more, they're going to start suppressing any vegetation that would grow under them. So if you have a lot of native vegetation, you don't want to put wood chips all on top of it because it's just going to kill it. You can increase your green bin size to 96 gallons at no cost, just by the way. Final notes. So no late registration accepted. Please submit the first application by October 31st. And really importantly, please submit your paperwork by November 31st. It's really, I use the time between December 1st and the holidays to get the final paperwork processed. If you submit after that, it really starts to drag on and can push into the new year if I have to get in touch with you for any clarifications or anything like that. People start leaving. It's just better to have it in by November 31st. General registration opens August 1st. Registration for Firewise communities opens the 25th or sometime the 24th. The contractors hired to chip, again, must be licensed. So don't hire an unlicensed contractor and then expect to get reimbursed.
Laurel,
If you have, yeah,
question really quick. I think
yeah,
that this year, because it falls on a weekend, that shipping registration is opening on August 3rd. Is that correct?
yeah, that's probably correct.
It's always been August 1st, but sometimes, right, the first day we
It's a
open,
Saturday. Yeah.
we try not to do it on a weekend. So
Yeah.
I think the website has it correct.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. Good catch. I have to edit this before I send it out. Um, so that's the application. You can also go to our website. There's a chipping icon, and from there you should be able to navigate to this chipping program. You can also find information about our spring program if you're interested in that. All right, any questions? Hey, Angie, you're muted.
Before the questions, I do have a question in here, but I was hoping that I could run, I kind of am interested to see how many people in here have participated in the program. So I'm just going to pop a quick poll up really quick if I can find our polls. Hold on. Um, so I'm going to have two questions. I'm just going to ask if this is your first time in the program. It's something, it should pop up there. You should see it on your screen and you can just say yes or no, or I don't know, maybe you forgot. Um, excellent. So it looks like most folks have participated in one of our chipping programs in the past. That's fantastic. I'm going to ask one more quick question, which has to do with Firewise neighborhoods. I'm curious to know if folks are in a Firewise neighborhood. So I'm going to see if I can get out of this and try again. Let's see if this works. Hopefully you guys can see that. Are you in a Firewise neighborhood? I'm expecting a lot of folks would be in a Firewise neighborhood, maybe not. Excellent. So it looks like we have about 67% of folks are in a Firewise neighborhood, 22%, and a couple folks don't know, and that happens oftentimes. And I don't know if we talked about Firewise neighborhoods, but that's a really great opportunity for your community to get together and create this Firewise neighborhood. There's a bunch of benefits to that, sometimes even lowering insurance. So if you don't know about that, you should, on our webpage, we should have a link to the Fire Safe Council in Santa Cruz County, which really helps folks do that. Okay, so I'm going to end that poll and get back to the questions. I have the first question, Laurel. If the chipper chips into a truck and removes the material, can the cost of disposal be reimbursed?
We haven't reimbursed for dump fees in the past, but I think we could, as long as it's going to fit still within that cost, that like 250 per household, and 80 per 500 linear feet. But if it's within that cost, then yeah, I think that should be eligible for reimbursement.
Excellent. The next question says, if an applicant applies and is in a Firewise neighborhood, do they just give the name of the Firewise community and their address? And I think what I'm asking is if they sign for neighborhood, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the person that put in the question, is it just like whose address do they give or does it matter? But maybe go over a little bit more about how people get reimbursed.
Yeah, the way that I interpret that question is what information do you have to provide to do the early sign up? Because that's so you're not required to be in a Firewise community to participate in this program. If you want to do the early sign up, you should get a password from your Firewise coordinator. Um, so that would be the means to sign up that way. If you, let's see, what else could this question mean? If you're signing up on behalf of your Firewise community, you're going to have to provide the information about all of the households that are involved, and that you're doing defensible space, that your community is doing defensible space clearing around. We don't need the name of your Firewise community necessarily. More so, we need the information about those households. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please ask a follow-up.
Yeah, and you can always call us if that's another option if we really can't figure it out. The next question says, is it $250 per household in a Firewise community? And it said, so it would be an aggregate of total residents. So I think what they're asking is it's $250 per resident. So if you had 10 residents, you would be eligible for up to $2,500 of reimbursement for chipping. And then there could be additional funding, I believe, right, Laurel, for if you were also clearing along your road.
Clearing along a road. Yeah, but just to be clear, the people who are on your application have to be aware that it's happening and you have to be conducting like a coordinated fuel reduction like effort. You can't just say I'm in a Firewise community and these are the other people in the Firewise community. For my personal clearing, please reimburse me based on all of the households that are in this community. It's I Yeah, you are gonna have if you're applying with a Firewise community, that one either the coordinator or whoever's submitting the application is going to be listing all of the people in the Firewise community who are participating.
Right. So not everyone. Let's say you have 25 people in your neighborhood,
Uh-huh.
and 12 of you are going to be able to do the clearing or participate. You would get reimbursed for the 12 households.
Yes. Yeah. And
And potentially additional if you did like a
yeah,
quarter mile of the road or something along those lines.
there is a maximum of $10,000 of reimbursement per group applying or per applicant, but a single applicant wouldn't reach that.
Excellent. Hopefully that answered the question. And then this says, could you repeat the actual reimbursement for a chipper? If 5 neighborhoods come together and the total maximum, if 5 neighborhoods come together, is the total maximum $1,250 at $250 per neighborhood? And I think we probably just answered that, but yes.
It's also not per neighborhood, it's per household.
Or per
So,
neighbor.
per neighbor. Okay, okay.
I missed that.
Yes,
Sorry.
per neighbor. So it's going to be 5, if you have 5 people participating, that's 5 times 250. And then if you guys are also doing clearing along a private road, you can say like, oh, I cleared a half mile of private roads. That's about like 2,500 feet. So then I'll do the math as to how much that that reimbursement is. It's a little hard to do on command. But yes.
And then this next one is more of a comment. Somebody was saying that they clicked no, they hadn't participated in the fall program, but they have participated in the spring program. And just to be clear, you can participate if you participated in the spring program. You can also participate.
Yes,
in the
you
fall
can participate in both. Yeah.
And then another question, somebody was just asking about Lynn, who works with the Fire Safe Council. She is the one that will send out that password normally for the early bird registration. We should be giving that to her. We'll probably send that to her either this evening or early tomorrow morning so she can send that out. We're just testing
Hmm.
that application to make sure it works because it's a little different this year. Um, and she should have everyone. And I think even folks, even if you are not completely through the process, I believe Lynn allows everybody, either if you're in the process or if you have completed the Firewise recognition completely. This person says, I'm in the South Skyline Fire Safe Council. We service a lot of Santa Cruz County residents in our free chipping program. Would we be eligible to participate? And that might be an offline conversation, Laurel.
Yeah, so are you saying that if so that's going to be a conversation between me and the people who run the South Skyline shipping program. Sorry if I couldn't tell from your question if you were saying that was you or not, but if you are uh or whoever runs that program should reach out to me directly.
Yeah. And sometimes what happens is we provide the funding for either South Skyline, sometimes Bonnie Doon, who are running their own programs. So we will help fund their
Hmm.
existing programs because that's either easier or they have people to participating. It just depends. So there are different ways to do it. And if they aren't doing a program, sometimes folks from those communities can join our program.
Yeah, but we do generally just want to talk to the people who run those programs just to make sure that they're being kept in the loop, if we are gonna pick that up.
So can you see these two, Laurel, the
I
questions?
can't. No.
Okay. I was like, are you, the next says, what specific type of license does a contractor have to be eligible to do the chipping? Is it a specific landscaping?
As long as they have a contractor license number, that's fine.
So it could be a
It
landscaper
could be
license,
any, yeah, we don't check the type of license.
but not a plumber's license. I'm just kidding.
Well, not like I would know, but
Right.
probably not.
Okay. It says, can the contractor for the chipper submit the bill for the chipper at a cost inclusive of operating the chipper and doing the chipping? I feel like that is like, you can answer that, Laurel, but I'm assuming if you're hiring a chipper, you are paying them for their service and their chipper collectively, and they should
Yeah,
pay a price for that, and that entire price is reimbursable. The only part that is not is if they do clearing along with that, they would have to have two separate line items. So if they were doing clearing, that would be one line item,
yeah,
and chipping would be a separate, and then we could
yeah,
reimburse up to the total amount that you're eligible for of the chipping portion of that. But it does include their labor and their chipper.
yeah. They're like the loading the chipper and all of their costs to run the chipper. Usually they fold that in. Like if you ask them to line it out, they'll just be like, yeah, this is the chipping, this is the clearing. Uh, and they don't usually break it down as to like, oh, this is like operating the chipper, this is like the costs to load the chipper. That's generally included in the same line item. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, and they probably it's not like they have to do the work. So they can cut and then load as long as they like give a line item that says this is the amount that we're charging for the cutting, this is the amount that we're charging for the chipping. That's fine. Like I said earlier, you also don't have to build piles and have them chip the piles.
Great. So I just realized my camera was on. This is another question that says, will contractors be required to be livable wage compliant? And I believe what you're asking is, are these prevailing wage? Are they required to pay prevailing wage?
No.
Currently, for the state of California, these types of programs are exempt from that under a certain dollar amount. So the answer would be no, if that's the question you're asking. It would be nice if everybody was getting a livable wage, but from the prevailing wage perspective that is run through the Department of Industrial Relations for like public works projects, does not fall under that category for that purpose. So for now, those are all the questions I have. I am going to really quick, just to make it quick and easy, I'm going to pop in. Oh, if everybody looks in the chat, I did put a link directly to our chipping programs. It has both the spring and fall program. Down at the very bottom, you can click And that video is a little bit outdated. It has 8 people. It says 8 people have to participate, but as Laurel mentioned, that is not the case anymore. At the bottom of that page, you can click on neighborhood or spring. So this is the neighborhood chipping program, and it will take you to more information about the program. And the map, Laurel, I didn't know if you know, is at the bottom of that page as well. So it's our
Right.
spring and fall page, and you can type in your address and it'll tell you if you're eligible for the program. And it does have South Skylines boundaries and Bonnie Doon Fire Safe Council boundaries outlined. And is Bonnie Doon, I don't know if you answered that, are they eligible for this, or is that through Bonnie?
No,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, they run their chipping program, and then yeah.
Them. Okay. Excellent.
Uh,
So if nobody has any more questions, let me just make sure no other questions came in. Thank you so much for I want to make sure cost inclusive or operate. Yeah, so I answered all the questions. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Again, this recording will be up on the website. We can send out, I don't know if we have people's email. If you signed up for the webinar, we probably have a list of emails that we can send out. We'll check with our Zoom. I think we did request for them to collect that. So if you put in an email address, we can send it to you. Otherwise, you can come back to our website at that link that I just gave you, and we will have the webinar posted, send other folks. And early bird registration starts when, Laurel? June?
well, no, July 24th, end of day.
Okay, July 24th. So that is tomorrow. We'll get Lynn that password, and then August 3rd for folks that are not within Firewise. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.